Okay, I have another question-laden journey for you, and hopefully this is the last one, but why are there no clear answers? When I'm trying to find solid answers, why are there so many differing Christian perspectives? And which perspective is right? Surely with 2,000 years of church history, we would have figured things out yet, but clearly we haven't. But here is what I think I've been led to. I think this is how God designed it. I've come to believe that this uncertainty is actually the answer. If our original sin was pride, thinking that we can do things our way, that we can figure things out, if only we had the knowledge, then the failure of our plans not working out, the failure of us trying to figure things out but obviously can't, then this is the antidote to the pride that got us into this mess in the first place. If it were possible for us humans to figure things out, then surely over the past 6,000 years we would have done so. But instead, the problems we have today are the same ones we had yesterday. I've been led to consider that this lack of clarity is actually the mechanism that is built into the fabric of this fallen world that, God willing, will help me humble myself. If I can somehow internalize this lesson, and just for the record, I've not internalized this. It's actually really, really hard for me for some reason. But if I could, then I recognize that I would actually start to learn how to love people a whole lot easier, because I'm no longer looking at them through the lens of, I'm better than you. Or on the flip side, I'm no longer looking at people through the other lens of, hey, like, why am I not as good as you are? As a new Christian, I started out pretty frustrated with the church and why they haven't even figured out some of the basic questions. But then I recognized my arrogance in that question. When I started my Christian journey just a few months back, I thought, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I'm a scientist. I'll just list out the questions I have, things like once saved, always saved, or is there a rapture, and do miracles still happen? And I'd list them out, and I'd study and test things. And as I learned things, I'd adjust the confidence level of what I came up with. I assumed that, by the end of August, I would have figured things out. So I tracked hundreds of these questions. And to be fair, for some of them, actually for a lot of them, this approach really worked. But for the big questions, the deeper I got, the harder it was for me to know for sure. I kept finding scriptures on either side of the argument and differing opinions that contradicted each other, making things fuzzy. You probably heard of the saying that we could have ideas living rent-free in our heads. This happens when we are happily able to believe in something without critically thinking about that. Well, this process forces each of my ideas to actually pay rent. And I think it's the antidote to dogma setting in. And that is when I started to think, hey, wait a minute, is this by design? Is it God's design that even after deep study, that I'll not find clear answers, so that I will always rely on Him and not some dogma that I start to create myself? But then I asked the question, what about all those Christians that seem to be running around and they know exactly what God means? They are 100% confident in their perspectives, and, do they know something I don't? Or are they simply like the Pharisees and the Sadducees of 2,000 years ago, who have let dogma set in? A few months back, I was asking a similar question about the Bible, and I made a video about this. I was questioning, how can I be 100% certain that the Bible translation I'm using is correct, and therefore that the interpretation I'm coming up with is accurate? In that video, I shared the frustration that this was causing me, and I used the analogy of comparing human languages like Greek and Hebrew that the Bible was originally written in, and comparing that to code languages, like what I use to develop software. With code languages, I can write something And anyone will be able to run that code, understand exactly what it does. With code, there is no vagueness. There is no risk of misinterpretation. And so the argument I was putting forth in that video was God could have chosen to write this in code. He could have made sure that nothing would ever be misinterpreted. Had it been written in code, then this could have made things a whole lot easier. But at the end of the video, I concluded that it's probably a good thing he didn't write the Bible like this. Because if he did, it would encourage us to blindly rely on the code instead of relying on God. So is that same lesson I learned about the Bible valid here too? Coming back to my original question, why are there no clear answers? I think it's all about me coming face to face with my pride, and God using this to provide me a chance to humble myself. If it was pride that brought the fall of man, pride that caused us to eat the forbidden fruit because we wanted to be more like God, we wanted to do this our own way, we wanted to figure things out, then the reality of our lives as we recognize that we actually can't figure this out this side of heaven is the antidote. And therefore, if I ever think that I figured this out and that I'm 100% confident in my perspective, that probably means that I have some humbling to do. God wants me to realize that I can't figure this out, that whatever answers I come up with are probably going to be flawed. He wants me to humble myself and realize that, Dad, I really can't do any of this without you. It feels like this will probably be the last video I make. It really feels like we have no more time left. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like this is the time that the vision I got close to a year ago was showing me is going to happen. And even though my church certainly doesn't believe this, and many people around me don't believe this, I can't see how the world can progress much further than it is here. The pride we have in ourselves and in our ability to try and fix this mess we've dug ourselves into has become overwhelming. One way or another, God is in the process of humbling us. And I think for many of us, unfortunately, it's a lesson that may be too hard for us to swallow. I hope that pride is not the end of your story. God bless. Bye-bye.